Hello, users, and welcome to another episodic installation of the Above It All program. Today, I'm going to be talking about news. Today, I'm going to be talking about stuff. And I will be talking about things. That's right, everybody. Things. And no, I am not talking about The Thing from Another World and its various remakes, but I am instead talking about stuff. Crap, as some people would say. Yeah, we're just going to be going in. It is a crisp morning where I am located at this current moment in time. Not this current moment in time, but a previous moment in time, because this is a video recorded experience, and, I'm probably sleeping when this stuff is playing live on the channel. So I will be drinking today. I'm drinking some alcoholic beverages that may affect my commentary. I haven't done this in a while, so I figure let's combine drugs with Above It All again. What could possibly go wrong? So, obviously today we'll be talking about the college campus protests. I don't know if you can hear it, but Max the dog is currently being a dog in the background. He's scratching the floors. Max, why are you scratching the floors? Look at him. Look at him. Max, why? We're going to be talking about Gaza, of course, because that is more important than what's going on college campuses, and more on today's program, featuring Max the dog, who is currently right here. So, let's start off with, I want to show some random videos I found on Twitter.com, formerly known as X.com. And of what's been going on across the various college campuses. I've got some Florida, some California, and, I think a lot of people have been reporting on Columbia, so we're just going to skip that part. And then I got Biden had like some sort of speech or something where he mentioned this. I haven't watched it yet, but I have heard that it's not that good. But before I get into that, actually, let's actually talk about this new, law thing that they're trying to pass, or they did pass. Let's find this out. Anti-Semitism Awareness Act passes House vote. Here's what the bill does. The House of Representatives overwhelmingly approved the Anti-Semitism Awareness Act Wednesday. Just real quick, man, it is wild. It is a wild experience to be alive at this moment in human history and to have a functioning brain. To be one of, I would say maybe somewhere around 1% to 2% of human beings have a functioning brain at this point in time. And so I'm just saying, kind of wild to be one of them. I'm just throwing that out there. I'm just saying, because it seems like the rest of the world has gone fucking crazy. It comes as campus protests are taking place across the country. While the protests have the support of many Jewish college students, many others have said they feel intimidated and unsafe. One of the things that's incredible to me is that people lie, and somehow no one else picks up on this. If you are a quote-unquote Jewish college student who feels unsafe because people are protesting against a genocide of children, if that makes you feel unsafe, I'm not going to lie. I don't give a fuck whether or not you feel unsafe. I would even go further in that I think you should feel unsafe. If you are in favor of the genocide of children, you should feel unsafe. You should not be allowed to walk around outside feeling comfortable and serene. Okay, that's just my opinion. You should feel ashamed of yourself. You should be hiding in your like bedroom. Ultimately, obviously, you shouldn't believe in genocide. You should stop being a Nazi. But at the end of the day, if you are going to be a Nazi, I'm not gonna lie, I don't really give a fuck about your concerns. I really don't. And that's the thing that's so insane, is that we live in fuckville, we live in shit for brains land, where Nazis have more free speech protection than people that say, I don't like Nazis. If you are a Nazi, the government protects you more than if you say, actually, I don't like Nazis. Think about that. Isn't that insane? Isn't that kind of like, whoa, you know, like, really makes you think. The Anti-Semitism Awareness Act could make it easier for concerned students to file civil rights complaints. Yeah, civil rights. CBS New York spoke with Reps Mike Lawler and Josh Gottheimer, two sponsors of the bipartisan bill. We need to be able to define anti-Semitism. Now, that's a good point, because it seems to me like these motherfuckers can't actually define anti-Semitism. International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance defines anti-Semitism. The Anti-Semitism Awareness Act directs the Department of Education to use the definition promulgated by the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance with enforcing federal anti-discrimination laws. Anti-Semitism is a certain perception of Jews which may be expressed as hatred toward Jews, the definition says. So, okay. Explain to me how this has anything to do with college protests, right? I know. They're just lying. That's one of the things that frustrates me about the song and dance that people in the media do. And I'm talking about like right-wing media like this. I'm talking about like, you know, propaganda from the government. I'm talking about propaganda from the left, propaganda from the right. You know, just the way media and discourse kind of talks about this stuff is really bizarre to me. Because like it is so obvious that the right wing is just lying. They're just lying, right? But like, and you know, I get it. There's well-meaning motherfuckers out there that are like trying to like debunk their arguments. But their arguments cannot be debunked if they rely on lying. Because again, it's like talking to someone that believes in Jesus, you know? Like once you say, oh, Jesus can't exist for this reason, they'll say, well, what about this reason? And then same thing with God. Oh, well, how do you explain how we got here? Oh, I don't know. We just randomly kind of came here. Well, God created us. Well, if that's the case, who created God? Well, was someone else. Well, God created himself actually in like a time loop, right? Like, so again, like, they're just lying. These people are just fucking stupid, ignorant, savage liars. That's what they are. That's what right-wingers are. That's what Nazis are. And so, like, and leftists and liberals especially. Liberals, I mean, most of the liberals are on Team Nazi for this one. But some of the liberals that are, like, kind of, you know, finding it hard to deal with that, just like they do this thing where they pretend like the right wing is like speaking in good faith, and they do these long-winded debunks. And now, am I saying no one should be doing that? I think that that is a job that needs to be done. I think that there does need to be literature that debunks right-wing arguments. But it seems to me like so many people in the media sphere are just stuck in this song and dance mode. You know, like dance, monkey, dance. Say the thing. Say that they're lying, you know, and say that that's not true and all this and that. None of this matters. I'm going to be honest with you. The lying is just a distraction from the genocide that's going on. It's supposed to confuse you. That's, again, language is a weapon, and right-wingers know this. That's why they lie on purpose in such insane ways. They lie in such brazen and insane ways that it drives normally rational people mad. Why? Because it's like, dude, this is so obviously untrue, so we get triggered because they're fucking, you know, they're lying, and they don't realize they're lying, but they do know they're lying, right? If you're following me here, thank you. But let's keep going here. But real quick before that, again, this has nothing to do with if you are against genocide, that's anti-Semitic, right? But somehow they're going to spin it into that. It goes on to define examples of anti-Semitism, and some of the heated rhetoric heard on college campuses lately would be included. What? Heated rhetoric. So again, this says anti-Semitism is a certain perception of Jews which may be expressed as hatred. What the fuck does that have to do with college campuses, man? What? quote, when you hear from the river, oh, Jesus Christ, from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. That is calling for the eradication of Jews in the state of Israel. Like, again, I know. They're just lying. They know they're lying. We know they're lying. So can we just move on? Like, that's the thing. Like, we're never going to we're not going to convince right-wingers on this. We're not going to convince the pro-Nazi liberals on this. Like, so can we just move on? And this is why, like, you know, ultimately, this is why I'm such a huge advocate of protests, because direct action is the only thing that's actually going to, like, do something. Because this whole debating on the internet, debating on TV, debating on the podium or whatever, the politics, debates, none of that does anything. None of it does anything at all. It might be moves the needle back and forth slightly or whatever, but ultimately it doesn't do anything. And that's why I advocate for protesting. Quote, all of our colleges have a responsibility to protect against hate and discrimination. There's a difference between speech, which should be protected, and harassment and violence and intimidation like a death threat. So saying Palestinians should be free is a death threat. Now, I know I don't want to get lost in the sauce here, but they're just lying, right? So let's find out about this. What about legitimate criticism of Israel? Now, notice how so they're saying in the dividing line here, it's like, so everything below this is legitimate, so which implies everything above it is illegitimate, which implies from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free is illegitimate criticism of Israel. What? It's a fucking catchphrase. It's a slogan. It's a protest chant. You know what I mean? Like, Jesus. Critics of the new legislation, including Jerry Nadler of New York, say the bill sweeps too broadly and would chill constitutionally protected free speech, including legitimate criticism of Israel. However, others say speech has limits, and some of the rhetoric crosses that line into harassment. I'm just going to say I don't care about the rest of this. This doesn't matter. All right. And with that, let's switch over to some of the videos here. I just got some random videos on Twitter. These are the ones that are the most rambunctious over the last few days, over the course of the week. And I'm going to play this with audio on. And again, this is the scene that Joe Biden is proceeding over. Now, I know, a lot of motherfuckers, you guys believe in a constitutional republic, man. It's like Joe Biden doesn't have anything to do with the cops in California, man. It's like totally, don't you understand that there's the state and then the federal government, they're two different things? And then, well, Joe Biden's going on TV, like, basically endorsing what the cops are doing. So hold on for a moment. So let's watch this. So these are this is in UCLA, I believe. And again, these are some of the encampments that we've been seeing across the country. And in UCLA specifically, Zionists, Nazis, have been like spraying fucking flammable objects, fireworks, like spraying random chemicals at the encampments for the last couple of days. And then the police kind of steamroll through this shit. So again, let's just watch how the cops are treating college kids. Now, you'll notice that the cops have guns. Now, don't worry, guys. There's no gunpowder in them or whatever the fuck. They're rubber bullets. You ever heard of rubber bullets? Also known as, bullets. They fuck you up. In a lot of ways, like, rubber bullets can be worse than real bullets. Because a lot of the time, rubber bullets will hit you, and you don't know what the damage is. During the 2020 protests, I was a relatively active participant around that time. And so I was researching and trying to be on top of all of that stuff. And I was participating in a lot of demonstrations. And I have heard many horror stories of people getting hit like in the abdomen with a rubber bullet. And they've got like a bruise all across their torso. So like they get hit like right here, right? And then their entire body is like black, right? And so you think you're just, it's just a bruise, whatever, you recover. But then it turns out like, your spleen got ruptured and you just didn't know, right? Like at least when you get shot with like a regular bullet, damn, I need to go to the hospital right now. But like people's interpretations of and they call them less lethal. They don't call them non-lethal, right? They call them less lethal, right? These less lethal munitions can do a lot of damage in ways that is harder to detect. And also, they can do damage in ways that regular bullets can't. Because, again, they can rupture internal organs, and then, you know, you don't know that that happens, and then that causes a whole host of other issues. So am I going to say that rubber bullets are worse than real bullets? I don't think so. But like when it comes to the perception and how like the media propagandizes you to believe that they're not actually a big deal, I do think that rubber bullets in some ways are actually worse than real bullets, just because people don't realize the extent of the damages that they receive, and that could you know, prevent them from seeking hospital care or something like that. So again, you see these guys, they do have guns loaded with this kind of ammunition. They're knocking people to the ground. They're attacking them unnecessarily. The volume is not necessarily as important. You know, you can hear like just, you know, gunshots in the background and stuff. And as you can see, like the cops here are just kind of, you know, tackling people to the ground, just like dogpiling them, which could also create injuries of some kind. You know, if you've got like 5 fucking soldiers on top of you or whatever, you know, that's a big problem. So this is a video from UCLA. I have another video here from UCLA. Let's watch this one.
They're trying to, there's a struggle going on over here now, but again,
wow.
Oh my goodness.
Gina,
this is so dangerous. Again, they're shooting rubber bullets, but I can tell you from doing stories about rubber bullets, they are extremely painful. If they hit your leg, your arm, they could break your arm. But they're trying to get into this encampment to get everyone arrested and out of this encampment.
So just again, like even the news media is kind of just saying, yeah, this is a little fucked up. And again, you can see in this opening section here that they're just like unloading. Because that's the thing, the cops, I need you to understand this if you don't understand it, but I'm sure most of my viewers do, is that cops really love when they get to play Nazi, right? You know, they play Nazi every day, but they love it when they get to go full Adolf, right? That's what they love. They love it when they get the guns and they get to shoot the fuck out of people. And because they're not real bullets, they feel that they can just shoot them 15,000 times and get away with it. So again, you'll see here that they're just like unloading these rounds into the crowd, just shooting willy-nilly, you know. And again, all for what? Because these college kids are wanting to have their colleges divest from funding a genocide. Now, I have a question. Why are United States colleges so economically entangled with a Nazi government? That's a little strange. That's weird. I mean, I hesitate to even call it a government because Israel's not even a real country. It's a military base. It's a U.S. and European military base where they pretend that they're a country. But I also have a video here from Florida, which shows a little bit of in some ways, a more chaotic scene. But in some ways, you know, it's just... this is going around all across the country, of course, right? And we're getting like tear gas, you know, in a lot of these areas, which again, chemical warfare, where did they learn that from, right? I'll turn the volume on here.
We will be utilizing chemical ammunition. If you choose to stay.
Notice how the cops don't know how to speak English. If you choose to stay. Like what?
If you choose to stay.
So there's also, you can see random fires going on here. Not really sure how that fire started, but you know, it could be from Zionists who are launching fireworks into crowds and other sorts of flammable objects. I saw this one video, I couldn't find it when I was preparing for the show, of a Nazi protester, quote unquote, was basically dumping gasoline along the fucking, you know, the line, you know, like the front of the protest. You know, a lot of these people have like boards or barricades of some kind. So they were just dumping gasoline on the barricades, right? So, and so that kind of stuff is happening. So I don't know how that kind of fire starts. But again, this is a very dangerous situation. This is very similar to what was going on in 2020. As far as I can see. And so I would say that there is a very, very, very high likelihood that this is going to get much worse. we may be seeing a repeat of 2020 over the next coming months. And if there is going to be a more extensive protesting going on, that, like, my ultimate goal, the way I see it, is that this should go not just from college campuses, this should be extended to everywhere. I personally believe there should be international solidarity demonstrations and protests, not just in colleges, but all over the place. And again, a protest is not a protest if it follows the rules, okay? That's not a protest. That's called a parade, okay? So that's what I would advocate for, and it seems to me like this is stuff that is very likely to pop off in the same way that we saw in 2020 when I think almost every major city had some form of, like, police rioting. And so again, am I going to sit here and tell you that it's 100% chance that this is going to get off of the college campuses and into every major city and every area of the country? I'm not saying that that's 100%, but this does have, like, that same kind of, like, powder keg. It could go either way here. And again, I'm going to play a speech from Joe Biden where he was talking about this stuff. And again, Joe Biden, this is not Donald Trump. I know a lot of people like to pretend that they're more different than they are. Joe Biden, and I say this as someone who voted for Joe Biden. I voted for Joe Biden because, one, I thought he would end the COVID pandemic. He didn't. He made it much worse than it was previously. He pretended it was over. Joe Biden is worse than Donald Trump when it comes to COVID. Yeah, imagine being worse than the guy who told you to drink bleach. Pretty stunning achievement. Joe Biden said he would decriminalize weed. I'm going to cover that later in the show. He's still going wishy-washy on it, but I'm going to cover that later. Put a pin in it. I thought he would be better on a lot of other stuff. Now, again, I wasn't deluded to think that Joe Biden is going to be a revolutionary president, but I thought we'd at least not have the same level of garbage that we had under Donald Trump's presidency. But honestly, it's gotten worse. When it comes to COVID, it's gotten worse. COVID is more dangerous. It's more lethal than it ever has been. It's more, in the population. Most of the population has some level of immune dysfunction from COVID infections, repeat COVID infections, right? And domestic policy, police funding. Joe Biden... now, again, I never thought that Joe Biden would defund the police in any way, but Joe Biden campaigned on reforming the police, and then he gave them billions of extra dollars, right? So if you thought 2020 was bad when it comes to police violence, Joe Biden's military, and when I say military, I mean domestic military police force, is significantly more Nazi in their ideology. A lot of so-called good cops, there were people that left the police force in 2020, 2021, and so on, right? So the people that are staying in the police force are full Nazi. There is no such thing as a good cop. There never has been, but again, it's even more so. They're even more radicalized. They have even more military equipment and so forth, so on and so forth, right? And I know a lot of liberals wanted to pretend like there's this famous yard sign, Joe Biden 2020, he won't tear gas your mom. What happened to that one? But this is Joe Biden's kind of like weird genocidal response. I haven't watched it. I'm just assuming it's genocidal because it's Joe Biden and he's a genocider, right? So again, I'm just assuming that, but let's find out here.
So let me be clear. Peaceful protest in America. Violent protest is not protected.
Now, this is one of those things that they're just lying. What is peaceful protest? Peaceful means peaceful, right? It means you are pacifism, right? It means you are not hurting anybody. Peaceful does not mean lawful. Those are two different words, right? You can sit in the middle of the street as a protest and block an intersection. That is unlawful, but it is peaceful, okay? Blocking an intersection, I'm sorry, I hate to say it, not violent. Right, but a lot of people don't know what the word peaceful means. They genuinely don't know what it means. Joe Biden has no idea what peaceful means. Either that or he's lying, right? He knows what peaceful means, right? But he is banking on his followers to not know what the word peaceful means. A lot of people genuinely believe peaceful and lawful are synonyms. They're not. They're two different fucking words, okay? Again, these are nonviolent protests. Not a single documented case all across the country of violence perpetuated by the pro-Palestinian demonstrators. There have been violence inflicted upon them by the Nazis, the Zionists, the pro-genocide groups that Joe Biden is funding and supporting, right? But again, this conflation with peaceful and lawful is absurd. It's absurd. Okay, so let's just restart this and go on.
So let me be clear. Peaceful protest in America. Violent protest is not protected. Peaceful protest is.
Now, again, peaceful protest is also not protected. Again, you can get arrested for blocking an intersection. That is a peaceful protest. It is unlawful, so therefore you can get arrested. But again, most people are they're just fucking... I need you to really understand this, okay? And this is something I'm just talking to you directly right now. I need you personally to understand this right now. Most, if not like a super duper motherfucking hyper diaper majority of Americans cannot read. Cannot read. They don't know what words mean. They don't know what sentences are, right? They can read insofar as like they know how to put something in the microwave, but even then a lot of people can't read. Remember that cup noodle phenomenon where people revealed that they were microwaving something with a giant do not microwave thing on the label? So even in that case, people can't read, right? But most Americans fundamentally cannot read. They don't know what words mean. They cannot follow sentences or paragraphs, right? So I need you to really fucking understand that at a fundamental level here, okay? Leftists, rightists, Nazis, communists, a lot of people in this country cannot read. Now, the more you have the ability to read, the more left-leaning you're going to be, obviously, right? Because when you have the ability to read, you're going to see, oh man, this shit's it's a lot fucked up going on here. But let's keep going. I know I'm rambling and raving. I haven't had alcohol, by the way. I've been trying to cut back on alcohol. I haven't had alcohol in maybe a month, 2 months. And so this is my first beer in quite a while. So just bear with me.
Against the law when violence occurs. It's against the law when violence occurs.
It's also against the law when a peaceful protest occurs, but they're just going to hide that fact. They want to conflate things like blocking an intersection with violence. The violence.
Destroying property is not a peaceful protest.
Destroying property is extremely peaceful. No one is injured, right? If you set fire to a building and someone is in that building, yes, then it is no longer peaceful, okay? But the idea that breaking a window is violence, I'm sorry, it's just not. It's just not. We can argue about whether you should do it, whether you shouldn't do it, whether it's a good tactic, whether it's a bad tactic. We can argue about optics and all that stuff, but it is objectively peaceful. It is objectively peaceful when it comes to how these demonstrations are going, okay? And so, but again, notice how these arguments never apply to the other side. Police are breaking windows. Is that violent? Should the police be arrested for breaking windows? No. It's always the college kids. It's always the protesters, right? And again, like I said before, when I was participating in a lot of the protests from 2020, 2021, 2022, a lot of the time you would get accused of violence for not even doing property damage, but for sitting in an intersection. I did a lot of sit-ins and blocking intersections, and I would constantly get accused by the police of committing violent acts. We didn't even break anything. There's no property damage. We just blocked an intersection for half an hour, and that's violence, right? So again, words have meanings, but most Americans cannot read, so most Americans don't know what the definitions to most words are, and that's why people in power take advantage of that fact.
It's against the law. Vandalism.
Now again, equating unlawful with violence is also kind of stupid. Like, is fucking consuming heroin violent? Is it? I don't think so. Is cheating on your taxes violence? I mean, it's unlawful, but is it violent? Right? So again, but most people don't know what words mean.
Trespassing, breaking windows, shutting down campuses, forcing the cancellation of classes and graduations.
So also, trespassing? Motherfucker, they paid to be there. Like, how does a college kid trespass on their own campus? Like, I'm sorry, man. I just don't believe that fucking shit, okay?
None of this is a peaceful protest.
It is absolutely, by every definition, a peaceful protest. Again, this is just some pro-genocide Nazi-ass shit.
Threatening people, intimidating people, instilling fear in people is not peaceful.
And again, that's also all three of those things. There have been no threats from the pro-Palestinian demonstrations. What were the other ones? I have short-term memory loss.
Intimidating people.
Intimidating, there's been no intimidation.
Instilling fear in people is not.
Instilling fear and intimidating are the same thing. So both of those, untrue. There have been no death threats, no threats of violence, no fear, no intimidation. That's all a lie. And even then, I would say that it could still be peaceful, depending on, like, again, like if I think it is peaceful to to instill fear in Nazis. I think that that is peaceful because the greater good is that Nazis should feel fearful about being Nazis. They should feel so afraid and shameful that they are Nazis that it forces them to change their opinions, okay? That's how peace works. The idea that having a Nazi commit a genocide, such as what's going on in Gaza, the idea that that happening and then someone saying, hey, that's actually pretty bad, you should feel ashamed about that, and then the person saying you should feel ashamed is violent all of a sudden, right? Like, what? I'm sorry. If you are anti-Nazi, that is by definition a peaceful position. It doesn't matter how unfortunate the Nazis feel. It doesn't matter how much they cry. It doesn't matter how many times they shit in their diapers, right? If you make them feel bad, that is by virtue of them being Nazis and you being against Nazis, that makes you a peaceful person in that position. So I just want to say that.
Not peaceful protest. It's against the law.
And again, conflating violence with unlawful. Again, sitting in an intersection. Now, I know that that's not happening exactly here, but this is my personal experience. But most of these college campuses, they're just sitting in the campus. They're just kind of blocking, some of these buildings from being accessed. That is not violent. It is also theoretically not lawful, okay? But that doesn't make it not peaceful, okay? It is extremely peaceful. This idea that, oh, I can't get to class, and all of it, that's violence all of a sudden. Like, what?
Dissent is essential to democracy, but dissent must never lead to disorder or to denying the rights of others so students can finish the semester and their college education.
Denying the rights of others. Interesting. Like the police and Joe Biden are denying the rights of people to protest against the genocide in Gaza? Interesting.
Look, it's basically a matter of fairness. It's a matter of what's right. There's the right to protest, but not the right to cause chaos.
Again, these people have like defined protesting in such a narrow way where it's not protesting. If like walking on the sidewalk with a sign is the only, and you're not allowed to have groups greater than 3, like in Florida and stuff like that, they pass laws after 2020 and 2021. They basically said if there's any protest above 3 people, that is considered a riot and therefore it's illegal, right? So in a lot of these cases, right, the idea that having a sign and having 2 people on a sidewalk is a protest, I'm sorry, it's not a protest. That's like an advertising campaign, if at best, okay? A protest is, by definition, disruptive, okay? The only way you can actually genuinely protest something is by being disruptive, okay? That's just a fact. And again, the cops are the only ones here causing chaos, but, Joe Biden knows that, so... but let's talk about the more important thing going on here, is that also this week, Netanyahu announced that he is going ahead with an invasion of Rafah. Now, if you're not keeping up with what's going on in Gaza, basically, at the start of the genocide campaign, the recent genocide campaign, of course, this has been a 100-year-long-ish, 90-year-long genocide campaign, but this phase of the genocide, from October 7th all the way, at the start of that, they basically said, if you live in North Gaza, we're basically going to kill all of you, so go to the South Gaza, all right? And, okay, so that happened. They basically killed everyone in North Gaza. Then they said a couple months later, all right, if you're in South Gaza, we're going to fucking kill all of you. Go to Rafah, which is there's refugee camps. Again, it's close to the Egyptian border, that kind of stuff, right? So, again, they're just trying to push them all into one concentrated, let's say, camp of some kind, right? And now... They basically killed every Gazan who didn't do that, who didn't go to Rafah. Guess what's going to happen now? They're going to invade Rafah and then kill them all there, too. What the fuck? Right, but let's keep going here. And by keep going, I mean start. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu of Israel vowed anew on Tuesday to launch an invasion into the southern Gaza Strip, even as a renewed push for a ceasefire agreement was showing glimmers of a potential breakthrough. Now, this is just bullshit. Anyone who wants to pretend that this is all just propaganda and PR, like pretending, oh yeah, man, there might be a ceasefire. Dude, I think there could be a ceasefire. It's just all so people don't feel like this is a genocide, right? If you don't understand that this is a genocide, I'm sorry, you have the IQ of like a gnat, okay? I'm sorry, you just do. You're just dumb as shit. After 7 months of an Israel-Hamas war, it wouldn't call it a war, it is a genocide, okay? That's just how it is. The United States, Qatar, and several other countries have been hoping to broker a ceasefire. Secretary of State Tony Blinken is visiting the Middle East to press for an agreement. Again, he is not going there to press for an agreement. He's going there to tell Netanyahu, you can do whatever you want, but you just give us something here to work with so that we can pretend like it's not as bad as it really is. That's why he's going there. But with Hamas arguing that any agreement should include an end to the war, and with right-wing politicians in Israel, let's be honest. Politicians in Israel, right-wing politicians in Israel, what's the difference, okay? Almost every politician in Israel is right-wing. There's a very small left-wing movement in Israel. And again, they have no power. In Israel, threatening to leave the government coalition if the long-planned incursion into the southern Gazan city of Rafah is delayed. Mr. Netanyahu said that Israel reserved the right to keep fighting. So basically, what they're going to do is they're pressuring Netanyahu. If you don't go ahead with the invasion, we're basically going to do like some governmental like fuck around to install a new prime minister so that they can go even more genocidal, right? Which I don't even know is possible. Because I feel like Netanyahu is playing this as good as you could play it. When you want to kill 2 million people and you want to kill them as quickly as possible, but you also have to deal with the fact that there's cameras everywhere. I feel like Netanyahu is playing that position well. I don't know how you would get any better than that, but, in the terms of the pro-genocide position. Quote, we will enter Rafah and we will eliminate the Hamas battalions there with or without a deal in order to achieve total victory. Now, again, they know total victory is impossible. They've admitted that in backdoor meetings. And again, they count every single Gazan as Hamas, right? And all the government press briefings, when Israel reports about the numbers of dead people, the numbers of people that they've killed, they just label like a 6-year-old girl as Hamas or whatever. So that's how they instead of saying Hamas is basically just at this point a racial slur for Gazans. At this point, that's what it is, right? So Mr. Netanyahu's comments came a day before he was to meet with Mr. Blinken, who, along with other Biden administration officials, has been pressing Israel to avoid a major assault on Rafah in order to That's not happening, okay? They're just pretending it's all window dressing. The war has already killed more than 35,000 Palestinians, Gazan health officials say. At a news briefing on Tuesday, John Kirby, who's a real motherfucker, by the way, a White House spokesman, made clear the United States remained opposed to an Israeli strike against Hamas in Rafah without a meaningful plan to protect civilians. They do not remain opposed. And that also implies that they were opposed beforehand, which they were very clearly not opposed. Quote, as for what is in the public domain coming out of the Prime Minister's office, you guys would have to talk to him, and it's always deflection. Anyway, you can read the rest of this. It doesn't really matter. Netanyahu is going to fulfill the prophecy of genociding the entire Palestinian people. Once Gaza has been completely eliminated, it's going to be the West Bank, and it's going to be all the other settlements of Palestinians in Israel. He is going for a complete and total eradication of these people. And if you don't understand that, I'm sorry, but you're just a garbage person. And the sooner you leave this earth, the better for everyone else. All right, let's get into something else here. All right, check this out. This is from the New York Post. Long withheld rage from COVID shutdowns to blame for pro-Palestinian protests, experts. Now, if you have been a frequent viewer of my show, You know that COVID is not over. You know that the pandemic never ended, and you know that the government has been propagandizing over and over and over again. The 2-week vacation, stay-at-home vacation people had 4 years ago is to blame for everything. If you broke your leg, it's because of lockdowns. If you got sick with COVID 19 times because you thought the pandemic was over because you're a stupid little fuck and you believe the government, it's because of lockdowns. If you threw your baby out the window, lockdowns. Everything's because of lockdowns. By the way, there were no lockdowns. It's called a optional quarantine. In the United States, what we had was an optional quarantine. That's all we had. There was no lockdown. If you go to prison, right, and there's a lockdown, you don't get to just leave prison and go on a walk. Okay? That's not how it works. When there is a lockdown, right, in China, for example, they had lockdowns, right? They had people guarding like apartment buildings and no one was allowed to leave and so forth. And you can say that that's too harsh, too strict, whatever. But again, that is a lockdown. Definitionally speaking, that is a lockdown. But again, as I said earlier, Americans, by and large, cannot read. They don't know what words mean. So they think an optional, completely optional, stay-at-home quarantine is equivalent to a lockdown because they're dramatic little babies. But let's see what this fuckface has to say. Blame it on COVID. Campus protesters roiling colleges across the nation are part of a generation shaped by the pandemic, who grew up isolated and angered by school shutdowns and social distancing. What? And are desperate to find a connection, community, and a voice, experts told the Post. The pro-Palestinian cause allows discontented youth to express long-withheld rage, says forensic psychiatrist Carol Lieberman. Lieberman, interesting. Hey, could be a coincidence. It gives them an opportunity to identify with the oppressed against oppressors. Okay, were the anti-Vietnam War protests also because of COVID lockdowns? Was the civil rights movement because of COVID lockdowns? Because this is the same shit. This is the same fucking shit, okay? Was the anti-South African apartheid protest movement because of lockdowns? What? What? Quote, people who offer an escape from this confusion by promoting a direction they claim will lead to happiness and purpose have found a hungry audience. I don't think anyone out there thinks or would think that potentially getting killed by police doing a life-threatening protest is going to lead to happiness. Now, purpose, maybe, but happiness? I don't know, man. Protests and encampments, ostensibly in solidarity with Palestinians, have ramped up in the past week, starting with embattled Columbia University and stretching as far as Texas and Atlanta. Jewish students have reported feeling harassed and again, what does that mean? Oh, I feel harassed. I feel harassed. Aren't these the same motherfuckers who were like, oh man, shouldn't we be I know, we're playing the hypocrisy game. I know, just bear with me. I'm a little drunk, okay? Off of one beer, you might say? Well, it's been a while, okay? But like, this is the same motherfucker. I know, you know what I'm about to say. I know you know what I'm about to say. But again, like, really? We're gonna cry about the feelings of Nazis now? Oh, I feel harassed. I feel unsafe because I want to just kill kids and they won't let me kill kids. I feel so unsafe. Like, you just fucking goddamn motherfucker. Okay, like, I don't know what the fuck here. Quote, the worst example of ignorance is the protesters do not know that terrorists want global jihad, not just to destroy Israel. Hamas in no way, shape, or form has ever announced that they want global jihad. What they're doing here is assuming all Muslims across the world are equivalent to the worst terroristic groups of Muslims. Now, again, I am someone who believes the religion of Islam, fucking stupid garbage. The religion of Judaism, fucking stupid garbage. The religion of Christianity and all of its spin-off campaigns, fucking stupid garbage. So killing people in the name of religion is fucking stupid. But again, we're talking about Muslim global jihad here. As if Christians aren't supporting a genocide campaign of Muslims by Jewish people who are using their own, their own God and religion to justify this genocide, right? And why do Christians support the Zionists? Because they want what is like the rapture to occur. And what is the rapture? The end times. What is that? Where God kills everyone except for the Christians. How is that different from global jihad? I'm asking questions here. What the fuck? The Christians and, in this case, the Jews want global jihad, but instead of blaming them, we're going to blame the Muslims here? What? Now, again, I know it's the Spider-Man meme with all three of them pointing at each other. That's how it goes. But again, as someone who thinks that all of these religions are fucking stupid, it's always funny to me when one of these religious groups wants to say, no, man, your one's stupid. Mine's actually based, dude. They also don't know what they are saying when they chant from the river to the sea, the psychiatrist said of the death to Israel phrase. Now, just to be honest with you, just to be very clear with you, I do support death to Israel. I think Israel should disappear. Does that mean everyone that lives there should disappear? Obviously not. Right? But the government of Israel, if you want to call it that, again, is more of a military base, needs to be dissolved completely. Israel has got to go. I'm sorry. Israel is gonzo. They have lost their right to be a country or pretend to be a country. It's over. So I do agree with death to Israel in the same way I agree with death to America. That doesn't mean death to the people that live there. It means these governments have shown time and time again that they're not capable of doing anything whatsoever for the people, and so they should be relieved of their duty, tried at The Hague, preferably, strung up like Mussolini. That's my opinion, right? That has nothing to do with the civilians, okay? Now, again, we can have a separate conversation about how a lot of civilians in Israel are pro-genocide, and what are we going to do about rehabilitating them? That's a separate conversation. But the government of Israel, the so-called country, the so-called only democracy where certain people of certain races aren't allowed to vote, but it's a democracy, I guess, right? That needs to go. So I agree with that. Death to Israel in the same way, death to America. And you know what? That's just my opinion. So cry about it if you want. But again, it has nothing to do. I don't think that Jewish people deserve to die because they're Jewish. I think that if you are Jewish in the sense that you believe in God and you take that part seriously, you're pretty fucking stupid. But I'm not going to lie. I think the Jewish culture, like if you separate all of the religious garbage from it, I think a lot of the culture and practices are really cool. I think some of the toys that they have are really cool. I think the musical instruments that they have are really cool. I think that the food, that they make is really cool. I think that the holidays are really cool. I like all of that stuff. Just remove the God part, okay? Because the God part is really fucking stupid. And it causes a lot of problems. 2 Columbia students participating in an anti-Israel rally at NYU went viral when footage was shared by former Mayor Rudy Giuliani late Wednesday. Like pedophile, by the way. Former mayor, current pedophile, Rudy Giuliani. They admitted they had no idea what the protest was about and wished they were more educated. So they went to a protest because they wanted to learn about the cause, and that's bad. So someone went to college for the purpose of learning, and that's bad. What? Another relic of the pandemic, a relic, by the way. Again, the pandemic is still happening, full swing right now. The idea that this pandemic is in the past tense, it's just fucking stupid. I'm sorry. I know some people who watch, some shows that I participate in might believe that the pandemic is over. If you believe the pandemic is over, you are a useful idiot. You might as well be a Nazi. You're just fucking stupid. You're just so dumb that your actions are affecting other people negatively. And just because you don't realize it, that doesn't make you all of a sudden immune to being a shitty person, okay? If you're walking by someone chewing on a peanut butter sandwich, and you know that motherfucker has a peanut allergy, and then they fucking swell up and die, guess what? I think you're kind of a scumbag. Are you legally liable of a scumbag? Maybe not, but you're still a scumbag, okay? And that's basically the situation with the COVID pandemic. While most of the country has moved on from COVID-19 protections, protesters are clinging to the facial fashion. It's not fashion, again. And I just want to I have not gotten sick in 4 years. I haven't gotten sick in 4 years. In fact, honestly, I don't even know when the last time I got sick was. I haven't gotten sick for several years before the pandemic even started. So it's probably more I haven't gotten sick in 7 years or so. So why is that? Oh, because I wear a mask every time I leave the house. Huh. But in the minds of Nazis, it's facial fashion. Because they're fucking stupid. They're dumb motherfuckers. And they can't read. As a sign of fear of the virus, This is like what is this fucking meme, by the way? Fear. You're living in fear. Yeah, the same reason that I don't go on a cruise and jump off the side of the ship in shark-infested waters because I have fear of dying. What is this like? Like, this is like some like Andrew Tate style toxic masculinity, like where not wanting to die is living in fear. You should be dying when you're 29 of cardiac arrest because you got COVID 19 times. Otherwise, you're living in fear. What? That's like, oh, I don't want to eat expired food. Why? I'm living in fear. I don't want to eat fucking garbage off the side of the road. Why? Because I'm living in fear. I don't want to go to the beach with, you know, a lot of my skin showing without wearing sunscreen because I don't want to get sunburn. Why? Because I'm living in fear. I don't want to swim in a toxic waste dump known as like a river in a major city. Why? Because I'm living in fear. Oh, I'm so scared. Jesus fucking Christ. These motherfuckers are stupid as hell. Again, this is a fucking badass quote. I read this last week in another report here. But again, this is the thing, is the New York Post has to twist itself into a pretzel to be pro-Biden. That's the thing about this, is this is a pro-Biden article when you really think about it. To us, the optics are communicating that we deny the Biden administration's narrative on COVID, that it's no longer a big deal. Says Olan Mijani, spokesman for the March on DNC 2024 coalition. The communal aspect of demonstrations may also give demonstrators denied socialization at a key point in their lives comfort. What the fuck? They're just ignoring this, by the way. Like, they're just ignoring that, oh yeah, Biden's lying. I thought right-wingers were all about talking about how Biden lies, but again, oh man. We got 1,300 comments. Let's read this shit. The top comment here. This reads more like a stretch in order to fuel some academic publication. And as regards to protesters wearing of masks, while I firmly disagree that it is driven in any real way by fear of the virus, the masks are to hide either from shame or from fear of being identified. Now, again, so they had me in the first half there, but it is a New York Post commenter, right? The biggest culprit was not COVID, but social media. COVID made the situation worse and it isolated many kids. So even right-wing Nazi supporters who subscribe to this garbage are like, yeah, this one's kind of bullshit. Like, part of a generation shaped by the pandemic who grew up isolated and angered by school shutdowns and social distancing. Like, the idea that kids would be angry that they got to stay out of school for, like, they got, like, a basically one prolonged summer vacation. Ah, they're so angry. Dude, what? What? Are you telling me that if you had like a 5-month-long summer vacation at one point, that would make you angry? What? I'm sorry, dude. What? Let's keep going. Nonsense. COVID has nothing to do with the embarrassing behavior on campus. So even these motherfuckers are like, yeah, this is bullshit. This is bullshit. They're covering their faces because they don't want college officials, parents, and law enforcement to know who they are. And I mean, I think that that's more true than the COVID thing. I will say that I think it is more likely that they're wearing masks to shield their identities versus caring about COVID. Because I know a lot of college kids, like a year ago, were also pretending COVID wasn't real. So again, I'm just throwing it out there. They do have a point on that one, but at the same time, everyone here is stupid except for the people that deny the Biden administration's narrative on COVID here. I think it has something to do with these kids relating to who's giving them information on TikTok, spelled incorrectly, of course. Most of the postings on TikTok are from young people. The mainstream media is mostly middle-aged, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, there you go. So that's what the New York Post is talking about here. Pretty interesting stuff. While we're talking about the pandemic, let's check this out. Turning point. COVID era hospital reporting set to end. Now, how do you know that the pandemic is over? It's when they stop counting. That reminds me of something a president of the United States said. I forget which one because they're both honestly so terrible. of if there's no testing, there's no cases. Which one was that? Oh, right, it was both of them. If there's no testing, there's no cases. Hospitals starting this week will no longer have to report data on admissions, occupancy, and other indicators of possible system stress from respiratory diseases to federal officials as another COVID-era mandate expires. So it doesn't just apply to COVID, it applies to all sorts of viruses. Why? I'm just asking, why would you, in any way, shape, or form, want to have less information on how to keep people safe? Even if you do believe, because you're a fucking moron who has like a second grade or worse reading level, that COVID is the flu, wouldn't you still also think it's useful to know how many flu cases there are? Like, I mean, like, what? Right? And again, anyone who believes that COVID is over is just dumber than dog shit. These are really stupid people. These are really stupid people. The idea that you would willingly go out there and get COVID for any reason, like outside of like maybe your kid's dying or some shit, like, and even then, like, wear a mask, right? But like, I just like what reason would someone want to go? What reason would someone have to want to get infected with a virus that has, by every scientific measure, 100% of scientific reports have said it can last years and years and years in your body and cause all kinds of symptoms. Again, brain age. Your brain, there was a 19-year-old. This one blew my mind. There was, there was a 17-year-old in the southern United States that got early onset dementia because of a really bad COVID infection, right? There are people that had to have, heart, surgery because of COVID infections. There are people that have had heart attacks because of COVID infections, right? Like this idea that like, oh, dude, what are you, afraid of dying? That's an epic own for some reason. I mean, I just like, and the idea that we would just get rid of information? Like, what? The sunset of reporting requirement on May 1 marks a turning point in the government's real-time tracking of airborne pathogens that help drive the coronavirus surveillance and reports like Centers for Disease Control and Prevention's FluView. It comes as U.S. COVID hospitalizations are around the lowest level since the start of the pandemic, but as a new variant called KP2 is rapidly spreading in multiple regions. Now, this is disingenuous because every year at this time, respiratory illnesses are at lows. They peak during the winter. They have a second, like, lower peak during the summer. And they're at the lowest during spring. That's how every year has gone. Right? That's like saying, in 2021, COVID is at the lowest levels it's been, so therefore it's over. Now, COVID cases in other countries that are still counting them, right, are going up right now. Why? Because it's getting hot. Because summertime is happening. More people are gathering in indoor spaces that are with closed windows, with poor ventilation because they need to have air conditioning. A lot of people are going to concerts and festivals because they're fucking stupid, I guess. So, COVID cases, such as in England, are currently on the path to a surge. This idea that like and again, with flu, we've known this for like a century, okay, with the flu, is that during the springtime, the cases go down. Does that mean flu is over? What? So again, they're just banking on people reading this being dumber than dog shit. Catch up quick. Federal officials since March 2020 collected data from hospitals and states to understand healthcare system stress, capacity, and capabilities. Now, why would you not want to understand that? Regardless of whether or not you believe the pandemic is over, how stupid you are, regardless. Why would you not want hospitals to have accurate reporting on disease? What? Why? Beyond COVID-19, the information helped guide prevention and response efforts to seasonal flu and RSV, which can also place a serious burden on emergency departments and ICU. So even Axios is kind of like, yeah, it doesn't really make too much sense. The required reporting to the CDC's National Healthcare Safety Network was scheduled to end with the COVID-19 public emergency last May, but was extended through this Tuesday with fewer requirements. That's what I said last year, is that a lot of the states just stopped counting, but now all the states are going to stop counting, so... The government stopped or scaled back other data reporting at the end of the public health emergency. Notice that they're saying end of public health emergency and not end of the pandemic, which is actually, I'm going to say shout out to Axios for not, lying about that. A lot of people think the pandemic's over because the public emergency ended. Like, what? So the government stops caring about it. That means it magically disappears. I know. I've had these arguments so many times now, but the left wastewater surveillance and hospital admissions as some of the most effective barometers of disease spread. Since the pandemic start, there have been 6.9 million COVID-19 hospitalizations and almost 1.2 million coronavirus-associated deaths in the U.S., per the CDC. Now, again, they stopped counting a lot of that stuff multiple years ago. What we're watching, reports will still be optional, and some health systems may combine data from all facilities in their network. Flu hospitalization data after this week won't be included in CDC reports for the remainder of 23 to 24 season. Meanwhile, more health systems are shifting services toward outpatient settings, which could in theory ease some capacity demands. So they're just getting rid of it. This is how you know the pandemic's over, because it never went away and all the numbers kept going up and up and up. Now, this is the other thing. Is about this one. Where was it? The fucking lowest point or whatever. Whatever, I don't need to have it on screen. But when it said we're at the lowest point right now, that's actually not true. Because every April and every spring, we have had higher lows. So what does that mean? That during the off-peak seasons of this pandemic, we have been trending upward. So if you look at April to April to April to April, we have been trending upward. So in these seasons where COVID and other viruses are less likely to proliferate, each April to April to April is going up. That's not a good trend. That's a bad trend. That's not good at all. But again, these motherfuckers are dumb as hell. I don't know what to say. Let's talk about marijuana. Let's just get this one out of the way. From marijuanamoment.net. DEA agrees to reschedule marijuana under federal law in historic move following Biden-directed health agency's recommendation. That's a lot of words to say. The DEA agrees to some fucked up bullshit. They're moving marijuana from Schedule 1 to Schedule 3. What they should do is deschedule it altogether, because you can still get arrested for marijuana if it's Schedule 3. The Drug Enforcement if states want to. The Drug Enforcement Administration has made a historic decision agreeing with the top federal health agency and proposing to move marijuana from Schedule 1 to Schedule 3 under the Controlled Substances Act. The Justice Department confirmed on Tuesday the decision comes more than 50 years after cannabis was first listed as a strictly prohibited drug, on par with heroin, and defined as a substance with no known medical value. They knew that was a lie at the time. Just a reminder, this whole war on drugs started because Richard Nixon hated black people and hated anti-war protesters. So that's why he made things like weed illegal, because he knew anti-war protesters and black people like to smoke weed, and that's why he put it on par with other drugs like heroin to, start a national propaganda campaign. And again, there are memos from the Nixon administration that basically just confirm that they wanted to get rid of blacks and the hippies, and they needed to find ways to throw them in jail, and free speech was too secure at that time, so they needed to create a new law to throw them in jail. That would be like, we know Republicans love pickup trucks, so we made owning a pickup truck illegal, and if you've ever owned one, you go to jail. It's similar to that. Moving marijuana to Schedule 3, as recommended by the HHS, also carries major implications for state legal cannabis businesses. If it is ultimately implemented, it will mean that marijuana firms can officially take federal tax deductions that they've been barred from under the IRS code known as 280E. So that's, again, this is a minor step in the right direction, but again, it's also just a bunch of bullshit, because it shouldn't be on there anyway. If alcohol is legal, so should marijuana. The proposed rescheduling determination, first reported earlier on Tuesday by the Associated Press, would also free up research barriers that are currently imposed on scientists who wish to study Schedule 1 substances. The next step in the rescheduling process is for the White House Office of Management and Budget to review the rule. If approved, it would go to the public comment before potentially being finalized. The White House did not respond to a request for comment. Moving cannabis to another schedule will not legalize it. Now, this is what I was saying. Participants in state cannabis markets would continue to run afoul of federal law, and existing criminal penalties for certain marijuana-related activity would remain enforced. Now, this is why it's bullshit. Because states, like southern states that have marijuana illegal, are still going to target black people and other minority groups for weed-related stuff, and people are still going to be in jail for smoking a joint in 1992, right? And this is still a problem. And again, Joe Biden campaigned on decriminalizing weed. He did not necessarily campaign on legalizing it, but he campaigned on decriminalization. This is not legalization, and this is also not decriminalization. So he's trying to meet in the middle, and he hopes no one will notice. So, it's pretty dumb. This is some stupid ass shit, but what are you gonna do? So, I'm gonna end this show. I wanna, for the last couple of weeks, I think I've been trying to end this show with more like kind of lighthearted, funnier stuff. And what's funnier than a Fox News article about a young Republican? North Carolina student said he would have protected American flag with his dead body from the Marxist horde.
I love America. I love that side of America. It's like we all just kind of connected our brains and stood there protecting one thing, and we all were like we all were looking at every direction.
I mean, you could say the same thing about the pro-Palestinian demonstrators. They were all in support of one thing, but okay.
If stuff was flying in, we would say heads up. We would cover each other. We would look out for other people. We would swap. We had like for an hour, and our hands did hurt. Our arms did hurt. It was like an arm day for me that day. It was no gym happened that day afterwards. It was exhausting. I remember we were all standing in there, and I think I made a joke. I was like, oh, I don't know if it's a joke, but I was like, I'd die for this flag, and everybody was like, yeah. If they get any closer, we're gonna start throwing hands. Like we're not going anywhere. I don't care. They're gonna have to tear me off this flag like by my dead body, stuff like that. And that was, I'm smiling right now after such a
What is that? Why is that
insane day.
edit?
I'm smiling right now after such a
What was that?
stuff like that. And that was, I'm smiling right now.
The sound seems like it's continuous, so why was there an edit there? Why did it just swipe? What the fuck? The sound seems continuous.
After such a dead body, stuff like that. And that was, I'm smiling right now after such a insane day, but it's because it genuinely was hopeful. It was enjoyable to be in such an environment while doing what we think is right. People really.
So again, they're describing just protesting in general, but I cannot imagine being such a soulless freak that to you would say something like, I would die for the American flag. Well, first of all, join the military. Why are you in college? Join the military. Second of all, I would die for the American flag. I mean, top 10 things I would never even think of saying, right? Like, what? You would die for the American flag? Really?
Took a lot of damage to protect that flag. And again, we were there for a really long time, all things considered. But it makes me feel very scared for the future of this country. It's good to see people still willing to put their bodies on the line, their mind and soul on the line to protect.
Just note, by the way, that he is using so much left-wing language, but it's in favor of defending a Nazi government, right? Because really what this is doing, for those of you that don't know, the college campuses, I know I already explained it, but they're all having the pro-Gaza and pro-Palestine demonstrations. So these guys are coming in there to protest them and saying, why are you flying a Palestinian flag, man? This is America, America, even though so many government buildings are flying an Israeli flag, but that's besides the point. Right, and he's just making all the same arguments left-wingers would do, but left-wingers actually are in favor of stopping a fucking genocide, right? These guys are just like, man, I love the stars and stripes, man. So that's just the idea that you would fucking Like, you would go out of your way to defend a country that doesn't give a fuck about you. Like, America does not give a fuck about young people. The idea that there are young Republicans is baffling to me. I mean, I'm sure they're all on a payroll somewhere, but
This flag. There are still patriots in this country that actually want to fight and would, sacrifice themselves for this flag, this country. And it's been missing a lot of the time, especially during this last administration has just been non-existent pretty much. That's why the photo is getting so many clicks and getting seen everywhere on every news site because
I
people
just
want to
I just want to say I didn't see any photo that this is referring to. I just saw this pop up. Sometimes I search Fox News I just go to the front page and I just scroll down until I find something ridiculous. But again, young Republicans, man, I don't know. Like, this is like, I love, I'm not going to bother listening to the rest of the speech, but like this shit, man, I like the idea that there are people out there that genuinely like feel as passionate as like people that are against the genocide, but it's in favor of genocide. Like, they're passionately pro genocide. It's just insane to me. Like, I don't believe that that's true. I think they're all just brainwashed morons. But again, I don't even know, like, I don't even know how to comprehend that someone would say that they would die for the American flags. A young person. Now, obviously, if you put a gun to their head and like cocked the gun and said, I'm going to shoot you in 5 seconds, unless you drop the flag, I guarantee you they would drop the flag. I guarantee it 100%. I guarantee you. Right, but just the idea that you would say that or go to a pro-America or pro-Israel demonstration during this moment in history, dude. I mean, and how at the same time are you saying you're saying Biden is anti-America? Like, what? What? I don't know, man. But these are some fucked up motherfuckers. Anyway, that's my show. Hopefully you've liked the show today. It was a little bit rambunctious, slurring my speech a little bit. I drank like a bunch of coffee and then I drank like 3/4 of one beer. So I'm feeling both at the same time. So there you go. I also want to say that, at some point in the near future, I will be taking a break. I don't know if it's going to be next week or the week after. I don't know yet. But at some point, either next week or the week after, I will be skipping a week, possibly two, but more than likely just one. So, yeah, that's all I got.